may have escaped the black hole by the skin of our teeth as of our last update in EOS, but we may not be out of the woods yet. We do have a precarious setup that could give us a lower low, but there's no reason to panic, as I look at that as a sale, and we may have an epic buying opportunity coming our way if things go the way that they're looking. This is our close-up view on EOS, the 30-minute chart. This is the linear chart, and as of our last update, we have two alternate patterns in play at the moment. One of them is calling for the lower low, which is giving us an A, a B, and a C up with relatively appropriate proportions, and this more or less mirrors what we are seeing in the vast majority of cryptos, in which we have a clear theory of this pattern up. And well, there's a chance we get a fifth wave up, but the way EOS is moving, it doesn't look like we're going to get that leading diagonal 5-wave pattern up. So we may get a little higher. Not sure if we're going to get the higher high. If we don't get a higher high, we've got some downside below us. The optimist perspective is that we already have 5 up. This is ugly, but I'm sure you could convolutedly count this as 3 up or 5 up, one way or another. Up to you. If that is the case, that means we already have our micro first wave up, and we're in a second wave pullback at the moment. Now in EOS, like I mentioned, it looks more like red is going to be is the more likely pattern at this moment. And there's one other reason why I think this is true. If we look at our decline from that peak of 276 on February 7, we can take this right here as our first wave down. If we measure it from there, and then we go ahead and build up a retrace to what I'm calling the second wave, and adjust this just a little bit. That does look like it fits our proportions perfectly for an impulsive 5-wave structure down. We made to the perfect 2.0 extension. So you got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fourth wave is a little muddy looking. And well, if that's the case, we are probably in a second wave bounce up before we have some downside below us. So this is a very clean downside setup, to put it lightly. If that is the case in our short-term chart, this does target right into our retracement zone. And we're going to go over the big picture chart in just a second. So like I said, get ready. This thing is looking like it's about to come down. We may go a little bit higher. We've already made about a 61.8% retrace, so you wouldn't expect more of a retrace, but if we did, expect us to go no higher than about 266. If we break through that resistance and we get a higher high, you could argue we have 5 up in a leading diagonal. So speaking of the big picture, this is the logarithmic chart, the daily chart, and this is of course available in the description below. So please feel free to check out that link if you'd like to follow along. But our red primary pattern is still very much alive, and it is still primary with our green. Well, our green has gotten a bit of a gut punch, and it's a bit lower in probability right now because of those aforementioned developments. So in that case, we have an A wave down from our May 2021 high that ended on June of 2021. Got a B wave bounce that looked very corrective, and EOS was one of the first cryptos that broke below its midsummer low, which immediately invalidated this having any potential of being a first wave up, because you can't retrace the origin point of the first wave. So if nothing else, our December 3rd low looked like it was potentially a bottom. We certainly went deep enough for that to have been the bottom, but alas, things are not as simple as that. We have had a lower low, and well, this may be the 5th wave down, or we may have a little bit lower to go. Whether we go a little lower or not, we do have enough depth here for this to be a convincing second wave down. If I draw an extension from here as this, assuming this is the 1, 2 right here, that's what we're showing here. You wouldn't expect to go any lower than 171, which, hey, I hinted earlier, that's actually exactly where this 5-wave impulse down is projecting based on the existing retrace. So if I put that back there, we are indeed projecting right into that territory, 176 or so, to 166. Again, linear chart does kind of a bit differently from the log chart, but there is multiple confluence at that level within this purple box. There is, of course, the danger zone below, what I was referring to as the black hole. As a matter of fact, I should have written black hole down here. That is the 128 mark. We cannot break that no matter what, because when we zoom into we zoom out to see our big picture pattern, our origin for this entire impulse, I'm going to zoom this out just a bit, was at that level, at 128. And this whole impulse, or whatever this is, this whole bullish wave, well, that is the origin point. We cannot retrace below that, or else we have invalidated this entire thing. And well, this whole thing could easily count as a corrective ABC up, which I'm going to draw here. It could be taken as something like this. The internal structures would align with that very well. If that is just a big corrective wave up, we've got a long way down to go after this point. I don't see that as happening. Very likely to happen. We're already quite oversold in EOS as well as other altcoins. There are a few altcoins where this is a very big risk. If I recall correctly, I believe Elrond and maybe Bancor Network Token have a pattern in which it looks like an ABC up, which means that, well, we may invalidate the entire bullish setup in those cryptos, but we are not concerned about that in EOS at the moment. And as I mentioned, when we look at our internal proportions, I can't see this going too much lower. We've already been stretched quite a bit, and there are confluences within this purple box. Now, let's say that we will salvage this green pattern and will become the primary. If that is the case, we should quickly bounce, and we should get anywhere from 520 or 513 up to about the 910 mark, something like that, within this blue-green box. And yeah, we'd go up 2x minimum for this first subwave. But like I said, the possibility, the likelihood of the green happening is waning. But that is not reason to be afraid or pessimistic because, again, we are much closer to this bottom than we are to the top. So from where we are right now, 254 down to 171 sounds terrible, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing. So I look at that as a buying opportunity because you want to be greedy when others are fearful. And this is going to be an epic buy opportunity because our projections are pretty crazy. I'm going to zoom out even more to show us what we have in our big picture. Our history starts in October of 2017. That is as far back as this chart goes. And if we consider this to be a major wave 1 and this whole correction to be a major wave 2, whether it's down here or here, most likely here, well, we should hit, again, the 0.32 or the 0.618 extensions for our first wave. And we did that perfectly. If you watch my Dash coin video yesterday update, very similar situation where we have a nested setup. In the case of EOS, it's actually a 1-2-1-2. So it is the most bullish setup of any crypto. There are other altcoins that have the same setup. We have a 1-2-1-2. I think Polkadot's the other one of the others, but very good sign because that means we're about to enter the heart of a third wave. So what do I mean by the heart of that? Well, after a moderate, or actually, let me put it this way: major first wave, second wave, smaller degree first wave, second wave, and once we hit this green box, smaller degree 1-2-1-2, that would be the third wave of a bigger third wave of an even bigger third wave. So it could be a rocket blast up to whatever our upper targets are. Since we did get up to just about the 0.618 extension of this bigger 1-2, I would expect us to get to the 1.236 extension of the bigger 1-2, which puts us at over $200. And well, I'll let you read that yourself. That return potential is a lot, to say the least. I'll be releasing some videos on the risk reward comparisons between different altcoins. EOS looks very good, one of the best setups right now. It is precarious because we are very close to this black hole down here, but if we bounce, this is going to be one of the highest return cryptos of any of them. The only concern would be, again, somewhat limited history compared to something like a Bitcoin or Dash or Ethereum, but pretty good setup here. If you are in love with EOS, I encourage you strongly to fall in love with a lot of other altcoins. As I mentioned, Dash is one of those other cryptos that has a great risk reward ratio. Believe it or not, so does Dogecoin. There's various ones, so subscribe that way you don't miss my allocations, risk reward, all those things. And if you enjoyed my video, please give me a like. Till next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.